Hi everyone, Broman Jenkins here. Watch this video and check out the 3 flashbang kills I get in the second half. For those of you who are here for a Let's Learn, I wanted to talk a little bit today about Superfund sites. And then I thought that was too broad a topic and decided to talk about specific ones. Initially I was going to talk about Love Canal. For those of you who don't know anything about Love Canal, it was a community in northern New York that was basically built on top of a chemical dumping ground and became one of the first Superfund sites. Actually, the first place in the United States declared a disaster area that wasn't an environmental disaster or a natural disaster. But the article that I was reading on Wikipedia, obviously, about Love Canal, to refresh my memory on it, actually linked to a place called Times Beach, Missouri. I'd never heard of it before, and I decided to go and look into it and see what the deal was. And what I found there was just very interesting, and I decided to cover that instead. So today's Let's Learn is about Times Beach, Missouri, and the environmental tragedy there. Now, Times Beach, Missouri was kind of a dead town when it was declared dead. It had been a resort town at one point, but was strictly lower to middle income, and just really it was one of those small rural towns that the South and the Northeast in the poorer areas have all over the place. And really they're common across the country, actually. And Times Beach had an interesting problem. They had a bunch of dirt roads, but no money to pave them. So they found a man named Russell Bliss who was willing to spray down the roads with used oil. For those of you who don't know this one either, oil was actually used for a long time to treat roads. In the South and other areas where dirt roads were common, it was used to maintain the dirt road. You know, you just throw down some oil and the dirt wouldn't fly away, it wouldn't spread as much, and it would compact it a little bit better. In the Northeast, it was used during the winter months. People would heat up the oil and spray it on the roads like it was, sand and salt today, to keep snow from actually accumulating on the road as much as possible before the plows could get out. Up here, it caused a really interesting issue. One of the local Indian tribes actually had to ended up buying some land for their reservation from a Boy Scout camp, because the camp had been basically saturated with oil that over 40 years had come off the road when the snow melted, and it just completely destroyed the water table there. But it looked good, so the tribe bought it and turned it into a golf course. But in Missouri, in an area that's in a floodplain, you get a similar issue. That oil is eventually going to come off the road. It's not going to just go deeper down. It's not going to saturate into the dirt as much. It's going to get pulled back up when the road floods. So this would have led to an environmental issue on its own. And from the sounds of it, this is where I was going. But it gets dumber. The man, Russell Bliss, who was spraying down these roads, accepted a contract from a company called ICP. Juggalos had not been invented yet, so it's not their fault. So ICP actually had a contract with a company called the Northeastern Pharmaceuticals and Chemical Corporation. And this company made Agent Orange in Missouri. And it had hired ICP to get rid of their wastewater and waste clay from their experiments, and from actually the manufacturing process as well. Clay is used in manufacturing of chemicals. And ICP turned around and handed this contract to Russell Bliss because they figured he could do it cheaper and they would keep more money than if they hired people to actually do this. So eventually, Russell Bliss, being the enterprising young man he was, decided to combine both his ventures in spraying oil on roads and hauling away waste by just spraying the waste on the roads. Now, he didn't know what was in the waste, supposedly, but he started to mix it with his used oil, and this wastewater actually contained a chemical known as dioxin, which actually is a component in Agent Orange, which was being made at that facility he was hauling the wastewater away from. Agent Orange, for those of you who don't know this one, was a chemical used during the Vietnam War to destroy foliage and is actually blamed for a lot of birth defects in Vietnam after the war. So he was basically spraying poison all over town, in a town that floods. And this became a bit of an issue in 1971, where an entire stable of horses died after he sprayed down the facility there with his waste oil and dioxin combination. Of course, he denied that it was anything but normal engine oil and blamed it on some sort of horse disease. This got people kind of suspicious of what was happening. It wouldn't be for another 8 years before a northeastern pharmaceutical company representative would actually admit to the fact that they were actually getting rid of dioxin by shipping it out through another company who shipped it out to another guy who they really had no idea how he was getting rid of it. And so the chain would finally link back to Russell Bliss, who to this day, or to his death, actually acknowledged that he had no idea what was in the chemicals. So it turned out that, yes, in fact, the town had been getting poisoned for years. Suddenly, randomly dead animals, people with getting miscarriages, having sudden illnesses, getting sick from during camping trips that normally wouldn't get them sick. It started to make a lot of sense. And the EPA stepped in and they started to test the soil, and they found that the water in the area was over 100, or the soil was actually 100 times more potent than what's normally considered harmful to humans in terms of dioxin. This is in 1982. In 1983, the town had actually been bought out by the EPA. Ronald Reagan had set up a dioxin task force, and it looked like the town was on its way to disincorporation. One crazy couple basically remained after all this, saying that they were born there and they were going to die there, which is actually how most people in small towns live their lives. But, you know, that's not my place to call them on that. It wouldn't be until 1985 that the town would actually be razed to the ground, and the EPA and the Northeast Pharmaceutical Company there would start to burn the soil, trying to get rid of all the dioxin that they could. Today it's a state park. A lot of people actually wonder if it's possible that the EPA overreacted to the amount of dioxin. In the 80s and the 70s, it was really known as the most dangerous chemical known to man. But now it's considered that maybe the effects in the town were caused by dioxin, but the EPA's overreaction may have created a scare nationwide that could have been avoided. So I hope everyone learned a little bit more today about Superfund sites. If you want to find a list of Superfund sites, it's not too hard. You might have one in your area, especially if you live in the Northeast, where a lot of industrialization happened in the World War II and post-World War II era. Boston's lousy with them, for example, and New York City as well, or New York State, I should say. So, everyone, have a good time. Bye.
Standing in the hallway, please. Literally just standing in the middle of the hallway.
Our electronics are down.
And another kill stolen.
Helicopter standing by.
I just...
Chopper standing by. Losing A.
Go for the two-way sorry.
Good job, squad.
Yeah, I got 18 and 43.
The first 4 minutes of the game, every person I shot was in final stand, and somebody would come around the corner